Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of Stash Report for Stash Project. Today is January 11th, 2021. And that was a heck of a week, wasn't it? So we have some kit releases, some kit announcements, and the preview of tooling from a kit that was announced 5+ years ago now. That is finally going to see the light of day this year. And I bet you most of you guys forgot to see if it exists, but not us. Or not me. It's not really an us here. I hate when people talk about themselves in the third person. So, not me. Or us, if one include friends of mine who do other channels that are similar to this. But at any rate, we have kit announcements from overseas. They are from Tamiya. They are from Hasegawa and from Aoshima. The Tamiya ones are not new kits. They're just placing stuff that we know about into months for Japanese release. And for February, we will see the reissue of the 1/20th scale Fiat 131 Abarth Rally. It is in the Oleo Fiat livery, which is the blue and yellow livery that a lot of Lancias and Fiats wore as rally cars from around about the, I would say, early 70s through the early 80s. And there is no specific rally given for the livery included in the box. There are numbers on placards, but there is nothing on the placards. There are just colors above and below the door numbers and hood numbers that clearly indicate that Tamiya wanted to reissue this car, but wasn't actually willing to pay the licensing fees for any specific particular rally involved. So I'm sure that at some point, possibly, if the kit sells well enough to the people who make decals, maybe they'll make some either fill-in decals, just putting words into the boxes, or actual real number placards for various rallies. Because again, as it stands, that doesn't actually make a real car. So there's that. And the other thing is the McLaren Senna. Now, for the folks here in the United States, North America, I'm not sure if Canada's getting them the exact same day, but I believe they're supposed to be. And maybe more globally than that, because I know the Hong Kong's set for the same day. I'm not sure if Europe is technically set for the same day or not, but it'll be 9 days from now, on Inauguration Day, actually, that we get the McLaren Senna here in the United States. So, depending on how you feel about things, it's either just another just absolute win for the day, or hey, it gives you something to do other than think about the fact that you lost. So it is up to your affiliation, which I don't want to know about, but it is going to ironically show up on Wednesday the 20th, which is again Inauguration Day, so that's just kind of humorous. We have the March releases for Hasegawa, the April releases for Aoshima. We're going to do Aoshima's first because there's only a few things here. So for April of 2021, we're going to get a reissue of the 89 Nissan SEMA Impulse 731S, a reissue of the 1984 Nissan S12 Silvia, Gazelle Turbo. You can build that either way. A reissue of the 1968 Nissan Silvia with its 2-in-1 as a civilian vehicle or a police vehicle. Reissue of the Hojo Rin R32 Initial D Nissan GTR and the Taihashi Ryusuke FC3S RX7. Now, those are the two kits that were developed in 2018, beginning of 2019, that took their existing R32 and existing 3rd Gen RX7 and added pieces and parts for them to match them to the initial D series. I would assume that these reissues, being the fact that they look like they have new numbers added to them, are not actually going to include any new parts whatsoever, but will include those new 25th anniversary initial D boxings, as some of the other ones have as they celebrate that anniversary this year. Also, a reissue for the first time since its original release, and that's going to be the new supercar lineup. Numbering is the 2010 Lamborghini Sesto Elemento, along with its photo etch. So that car, let's see, I'm trying to think of the Sesto Elementos on the screen. It is, oh yeah, it's right here. This one. Dunk, dunk, dunk. That one right there. That's going to get reissued in the new supercar lineup box. I think it's now going to be kit 10, and it was kit 21. So, yes. So there we go. What can you say at this point? We know Aoshima stuff going 4 months into 2021, and now they've given up even like doing new things to the old kits. The last 2 months worth of stuff. Now they are doing some. I believe there's no new kits in January. It's going to be all reissues. In February, we're going to have a couple of kits that haven't been out for a while, one modified reissue, and then going into March and April, nothing. Again, just reissues of kits. So I guess Aoshima doesn't believe that model car builders exist anymore if they don't, unless they're building 1/32 scale snap die kits. Maybe, Shizuoka is not going to happen again this year, the Shizuoka Hobby and Model Show, because of COVID. So it's going to be another virtual thing, and it will probably be late March, early April before we start seeing like the summer kits that we usually look forward to. They'll probably, like I said, all Japan Tokyo was a virtual show in the end. So we will see. With beginning of next month, we'll get the April Hasegawa stuff, and we should probably get the May Aoshima and Hasegawa stuff, and then everything after that would be the summer kits, June, July, August. So it'll be a couple of months before we get to that, but there really needs to be something, for me personally, in my opinion, to show for this, because we have not, at this point, we haven't gotten an all-new automotive tool in, by the time Shizuoka comes around, it'll be all-new automotive tool, not in the last 2 years, and some of the stuff that has been modified reissues has been some of the least modified things you've ever seen. So, yeah, we'll see where that goes. Anyway, back over to March of 2021 for the Hasegawa reissues. Some straight-up stuff. So you've got the Isuzu Gemini Imsher Turbo, which was the original Isuzu Gemini kit. That's getting reissued. A reissue of their Volkswagen Beetle, which is pretty much the same year kit as the Tamiya one, but it is a curbside kit, so now that going in. Reissue of the Toyota Celica Macau Grand Prix. That's that banana yellow car that just got released at the end of December, so that's sold out and is getting reissued already. So nice job, guys, for buying out all of those. That is certainly, I believe, going to be the impetus towards a kit we're going to talk about here in a second. And then you're getting a reissue of the Subaru 360 in its convertible format. Now, the Subaru 360 kits that already exist that Hasegawa does have the real car. It's not just the kits, the real car. The real car has a canvas roof that would roll all the way back to basically the engine deck lid, and the way the kits are as far as they're kitted, that cloth roof is closed, obviously. And they did do this in the past. The most recent reissue I can find of it is from 1998, where they included a little resin, almost like tank stowage, but it's the roof thing all rolled back and tied up. A little resin piece for that goes on, that you then glue in instead of the roof piece, and voila, you have a convertible. So that's going to get a reissue. They're going to reissue the Volkswagen Beetle, the same one we just talked about, with a new set of decals. They're calling it the Flower Power Volkswagen Beetle. It's going to be molded in what they're calling yellow-green, so that's going to be a real attractive color, I'm sure. And it's got a whole bunch of hippie peace neck decals stuck all over it, so there's that. Then you're going to get a reissue of the Jaguar XJS TWR race car, which, of course, would be this car right here, this line of Jaguars right here. They're going to reissue that in the Macau 1984 Macau Grand Prix winners vehicle, also a team car for it. And that'll be interesting to see what they do with it entirely, because that car's decals were sort of gold. First of all, they're sort of gold foil more than they were just gold like paint. And then second of all, it is a JPS sponsored livery, Johnny Player Special. So it's a tobacco livery. So very interested to see what the decals for this are going to actually wind up being in the end. See if they're going to actually include those. Now, they've sort of been hit or miss on that. There's been some cases where you're not getting certain liveries and there are certain sponsorship decals in like the Group C IMSA kits. But if you buy the Silk Cut, Jaguars, the Silk Cut is not anywhere on the box art, but the decals for the Silk Cut are inside of it. So, they could leave the angle of the box art is the car coming down the main straightaway into the first corner from almost a straight head-on perspective. So you cannot see any of the livery other than the fact that it's a black car with some gold sort of shining off of it. And that could certainly be an easy way for them to get around the tobacco livery by just including it in with the decal sheet and then not actually having it be on the box art. Certainly much easier than the Silk Cut Jaguars, where it's very obvious what those liveries are supposed to represent. So we'll see what that looks like. And I believe that Macau car is a direct result of how well the Toyota Celica sold, because uh, that Jaguar kit's been around since the late 1980s, and it got, of course, reissued in the 20 teens here, and then got reissued again not too terribly long ago as the the Canon Roll Auto Club Tourist Cup with the big modal livery on the side of it, and then it was reissued not too terribly long ago as the Fuji Intertech race from 1986, and now it's getting this 1984 Macau Grand Prix winning livery. Um, these are decal sheets that in the past I chose not to do, but in the present have chosen to do. So the Macau winning being probably one of the best finishing car. It's the best placing car for, that was sort of like the end of the car as a force. It came out, it pretty much dominated for 2 years, especially in European touring, and things like the decals to make that 1986 Fuji Intertech car. It was a very big deal that those cars were at Fuji in 1986, just because they were sort of famous for what they were, but at that time they were also heavy and slow and old, and they didn't even finish that race before they were sent to Australia for the Australia Touring Series that year, and then they didn't particularly do too well down there. So the 1984 season-ending Macau Grand Prix is sort of like one of the last races they won. You would think if they were going to issue that kit in a set of decals, this would be it, and it would have been done years ago, but it hasn't. But I think the fact that the Macau Celica, again, sold out instantaneously was like, oh, well, Macau's an untapped source of decals. Maybe we should do something with that. Also on this list, you got the 1990 Japanese Sports Car Prototype Series Alpha livery Porsche 962C. It's an all-black car with some white decals. It does look like the kit itself pretty much matches the car. Not a lot of missing things with that. I should go back to the Jaguar real quick. The Jaguar, as it ran in 1984, ran a set of mesh BBS rims, very similar to the wheels that come in the BMW 635 that Tamiya did, or the Ford Sierra that Tamiya did, or the there's something else. I want to say that this the current mesh wheels that the M3 comes with from Nunu, but those are a different set of mesh wheels. So you're going to have to source a set of wheels more than likely if you want to make them right. There's no mention of them tooling new wheels, and the previous European Touring reissue with the modal livery was also supposed to run those wheels, but didn't actually have them in it. So you're probably going to, for accuracy's sake, have to source wheels. Anyway, back to the Porsche. The best finish I can find for it, doing some digging, because it doesn't seem to be particularly set to any race according to literature, was a 5th place finish at the 500 miles of Fuji during the 1990 season. Then you get a reissue of the BMW 320i, and that's the civilian version of the BMW 318 race car, and it's going to have a resin chin spoiler. So yes, resin chin spoiler, all the things. It's very much a front splitter than a chin spoiler. A lot of these chin spoilers have been a big chunky chin spoiler. This is a very narrow, aerodynamically shaped piece that just glues to the bottom of the front bumper. So it is much more a front splitter than a chin spoiler, but who might argue semantics? Then you get a reissue of their Toyota 2000 GT in what they call the high detail series. So this is going to be another one of these kits that is being reissued with all of its white metal and photo etch in it. Last time that was done was in the 1990s, much like the Cosmo, much like the R89C. These are kits that have not been seen in 30 years nearly in these high detail formats. Much again like these other kits, they're a great deal more expensive. It looks like the price on the 2000 GT is going to run about $75, but you are getting a full detail engine in white metal and a bunch of PE and stuff like that for the engine compartments. So for those interested in those kits, that was probably, I think that's the third one, and I think it might be the last one of that high detail series. There might be another one lurking around that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head, but at any rate, that one is also, like I said, coming back out. Then you get a reissue of the Willys Jeep, the 124 scale military Jeep that we have seen a few times with Eggplant Girls and with various resin girls. They're reissuing the one that has the 50 cal mounted into the cargo box, if you will. And this is, of course, going to come with a blonde resin girl. So you thought we were done, but we're not. Resin girl, all the things. So, yes, it is going to be at least a U.S. military girl this time, but she is dressed up like a Huar, as the other ones have been as well. Then we're going to reissue the Mitsubishi Lancer, the new tool kit from last year. It is going to be the EX2000. This will give a new grille, a new shifter, a new front and rear bumpers and fascias, as this represents the car that they had to make for the homologation of the rally car. The third place finishing Thousand Lakes Rally's Nunu and Hasegawa both made the same rally car. That one, well, there had to be a street version of it because back then, that was the thing. You had to have a homologated, easy for me to say, homologated version of the car, and it will be that. So a few new pieces out of that. Then we're going to reissue of the Toyota 11 AE92 race car. So you may recall there's a new tool Toyota 11, and then there was the Advan sponsored JTC car, and now in February we're going to get the what exactly are we calling it? It's got a whole bunch of letters. The GTZ. So this is a 1991 series GTZ body, sponsored by Fujitsu. It's Team Tom, or Fujitsu, what they call it, Fujitsu Team Toms. It is Team Toms, which were big Toyota race teams in Japan. So this is going to give you new mirrors, a new wiper, and new fuel inlets. And this it doesn't represent a specific race according to the literature, but it won the 4th round at Sendai in its class in 1991. So it is a winning car, and it is going to be a new version of the race car based on the new version of the street car. So obviously there's going to be more differences in the kit between the 89 11 and the 91 11 than just the mirrors, the wiper, and the fuel ports. But those changes are coming with the streetcar kit, with the new hood and the new glass and the new headlights and the new taillights and all that stuff. But since they're not new to that kit, they don't count them as being new, if you see what I'm saying. It's just reusing the parts from the new vehicle. So there is that for the Japanese race car fans, which I don't know how many of you there are, but I know that I'm certainly happy about that, seeing that. So going over to the tooling tease that we got this week, and that is going to be from Heller. Yes, Heller still exists. They're owned by a German toy company. And one of the kits that Heller announced when it was 2 owners ago, making new tool kits again, when you got things like the 4H or the Type H and the Mahari and the Renault 4L and the Renault 4L Estafette, was a Renault Estafette, which is the van. It is basically it was designed to be a smaller, I guess, city delivery vehicle type thing that is like one size smaller than a Type H. It is a car that was made from 1959 to 1980. Like all French cars, they went way, way longer than you would thought they would. There's going to be 2 different versions of this kit. The first, I believe, reissue. I'm not sure if they're going to release both of these at the exact same time or not, but at any rate, there are going to be 2 boxings of it, and they're going to come out very close to one another anyway. And you have just the Renault Estafette, and the Estafette in this format is a cargo van. It has 2. A driver and passenger seat, and then it has a row of seats behind that with like 2 seats, and then the cargo box itself is empty. If you see on the box art here, it's going to have 139 pieces, and it's going to be basically a 2-in-1. You can build it as a 1968 or a 1973, and the difference in the 73 was they got a mild refresh, and it lost that sort of meshy front grille for a more traditional sheet metal stamp grille, and that seems to be the biggest difference. Probably there's differences in like mirrors and steering wheels and stuff like that. If you have any of the Heller kits, Really, because regardless of whether they're Citroens or the Renaults, they came with a lot of ability to build them in a couple different year formats, which had, you need this steering wheel, this set of mirrors, and this grille for this year, and then this set of this steering wheel, this interior change, this grille, and these mirrors for a later version. So that's coming. And then the other version that's going to be coming out is what is known as the Alouette version. It is in this case being done as a gendarmerie, which is the state effective police department in Paris, or the country's police department, really. And that's going to be the 1968 only version, it looks like. It's got 151 pieces because this represents a passenger vehicle. There was a minibus version originally made in the early 1960s, but the Alouette came along in 1968, and that became the new minivan, if you will. It is described as being the more simplified version of a minibus, and the seating is removable, which is why they can tool both of these out of one tool, and this carries like 8 passengers versus just like the 2 or 3 that you would get in the cargo van version. So, cool. 2 versions. Yay. So let's take a look at some of the actual test shots here, because those finally have come in. And it pretty much looks just like the tooling of these other kits. You have these other new tool Heller kits that came out. I guess they must be probably closer to 8 years old at this point, but the last 5 to 8 years. This looks like, I'm trying to think in my head doing math. Like, this kit was announced almost 6 years ago, and that was the last of the new tool kits from that company. So these ones are 7 or 8 years old at this point. At any rate, look at this one here. It's got the separate roof on the top piece here has a separate roof. You see the floor pan of the chassis is down there on the bottom. They've very closely circled and shown you basically what is the front end, the nose of the van itself. And there's some random odds and ends to this that I'm really not familiar enough with to tell you exactly what they are. They appear to be cross braces for the suspension. There's the driver's seat and the passenger seat up there. Looks like some the radiator and things like that. It's really, without seeing these in person and this weird sort of viewpoint they're giving, it's kind of hard to tell what every single thing is just looking at it. This runner right here has the actual frame to the vehicle, as well as most of the engine components. Also has the wheels and most of the smaller suspension components. I love the fact we're zoomed in on the fan belt, so I'm happy to know that this kit does include the fan belt for the engine. But you can see sort of what looks to be pretty fine detail molding. The door handles are all, I assume those are door handles. They look like the door handle. Are all down there by the chassis frame. It's going to be very interesting to see how many people can get this chassis off of this part runner without destroying it, because those cross braces look incredibly thin. And if you actually look at the one on the bottom, right behind the first big, be the third big spar coming off the parts runner, it looks bent in this test shot. So it could be very interesting to see if that survives packing and the trip over. There's some stuff obviously up there on the top that's been clipped off. I'm going to guess that's all the other interior pieces for the Alouette version. And then you have this version here, which is maybe is the Alouette version actually, but I'm not totally sure. Yeah, it is, because this is the 2 back seats showing you here the removable back seat parts. It's got the front and the rear bumpers on here, bumper corners. You've got the mesh grill down there for this older 60s version. Close up on the steering wheel up there, so thank God this thing has a steering wheel. Looking at things here, you've got the braces to the seats, you've got the steering column and this as well, and so on and so forth. This tree right here, when it was shown originally in another picture, had all the body parts added to it again. This is, if you've built Heller's version of the Citroen Fourgon, trying to think what else falls together like that. Pretty much that's really it, because the Ebro version of the Fourgon is why it's in such a big box. It's because that body is one piece, and the Heller's builds up like sort of like a tank. It's a multi-part body. So this is the same sort of thing. It is a very, very, very multi-piece body, and I know not a lot of people like that per se, but the Heller multi-piece bodies were not really bad in these new tooled things. Remember, the tooling itself, the concept for this is back when the gentleman who ran Heller 2 companies ago was a former Tamiya intern, and had basically got all of his injection molding knowledge from working at Tamiya for several years before he was put in charge over at Heller. So the newer tool Heller kits are very good, and this should follow along with that. These are these are not your 1980s grandma's Heller kit, let's put it that way. And so I'm very excited to get this because it's so quirky and so odd a French car that getting this finally is just very cool to me. So let's take a look at the kit releases. We do have a number of domestic releases from round two, sort of catching up on the end of January's, or end of December's kits rather, and we do have one January release this week as well. We're still missing one of the December releases, but at any rate, first up, yeah, from the MPC side of things, you got this, the 1936 Chevrolet Modified, the Wild One. So this is one of several of these modifieds that they've done. I think the last time, let me go back and see, I wrote down the years for these, I'm pretty sure. The last time this was released was... It was 2004 in a Model King Rebox, and then originally this kit's from 1975, so that would be that kit. Then you have, from the hit TV show Wacky Races, these 1/32 scale Wacky Races build and plays. I believe they're going to release all of them. I think there's at least 4. This has not been seen since 1969. It's snap tight, it's molded in color. It's got these low friction wheels, so it rolls all over the place. This one, the Mean Machine, with the I'm trying to think of who this is. It's Dick Dastardly and Muttley. There we go. And yeah, so that's coming back for. I mean, this is in the nostalgia play things that round 2 does. This is the biggest nostalgia play I think I've ever seen them do, because you have to have been a kid in 1969 or thereabouts for you to be like, holy crap, I've always wanted one of these back. Otherwise, looking at them as a kid who grew up in the 1980s, and while the Wacky Races were still shown on various Hanna-Barbera shorts when I was a kid, there's no connection to me whatsoever with this. I remember the Wacky Races in the sense of so many other Saturday morning cartoons, but I don't remember them in a way that I'm like, oh, those, of course. So, yeah, for you guys that are in your, I hate to say elderly years, but yeah, if you were a kid in 1969, that was quite a while ago. That's back out there. And then also from MPC, the reissue of the 1/16 scale Petty 1973 Dodge Charger. This is a straight reissue of the kit as it was released back in 2013. So this is really one of the first direct, straight, not changed reissues we've seen out of round 2. Mostly they've had Coca-Cola livery thrown into or something. And then you have the reissue of this, which is the first time this has been out in 9 or actually 10 years. It is the USA 1 Chevrolet Silverado monster truck. So bonus of getting chrome rims and new decals included. It should be very interesting to see if it includes quite so much how should I put this, religious stickering going on here, because there's quite a bit of it, and you know, political correctness being what it is. We're gonna have to see if those decals are in there or not. Originally came out in 1989, has a couple of reissues since then. Last time we saw it was 2011 at a collector's tin, so that kit is back out there. And then lastly, from round 2 in the domestic side of things, this is the first of the January kits, and it is the all-new tool Chevy 2 Nova station wagons. So yes, as we mentioned before, this is a curbside kit. It is designed in the Craftsman series with a no engine, basic interior, basic chassis. It is based on the concept and the design of the original 63 Chevy 2 Nova station wagon, but this entire kit from the ground up is all new tooling. It'll be used again in a couple other things. I don't know if they're all going to come out this year or they'll be spread into 2022. But, yeah, this will be the first version of it. And it's certainly, in a curbside version like this, a couple things to think of. One, like we mentioned in the January video, the engine insert is a separate plug that you glue into the chassis. So if you want to put an engine into this, you can. The hood does open. There are inner fender well details to it. So you don't have to build a curbside if you don't want to straight from the jump, if you don't want to wait for the fuller tool kits coming on the line, you know, at some point in the future. I really don't know when, but I know there's one coming for sure. I don't know when. It might be the end of this year, it might be the middle of this year. If this sells really well, it could be in a couple of months. I don't know, but that'll probably kill sales of this. You got to spread it out a little bit so you don't cram the market full, as it were, like some of the other things we've seen sort of wither on the vine because there were just so many basically the same kits released. And then the other thing is, it's sort of an artistic canvas, right? You have a curbside kit, you swap out the wheels, do crazy paint. There's all sorts of things you can do with that kit that don't necessarily, facilitate just building it as a boring curve kind of thing. So that is that. And we go on to the overseas reissues. These are all going to be I got one Hasegawa kit, but these are going to be all Aoshima kits other than the one Hasegawa kit, and then everything in this list is reissues, so we are going to plow through it relatively quickly. Hasegawa is going to give you back the 1972 Datsun 240Z in the left-hand drive export version, the US version of this kit, so that's coming back out if you happen to miss it when it came out originally about 6 months ago. And then over at Aoshima, we have several kits in the just regular model car lineup. So we have first up the Toyota 86, allows you to build it in the original Toyota 86 and the 2016 refreshed Toyota 86. It does still come with the Scion FRS stuff, so if you want to build the old version of the Scion left-hand drive or the current version of the Toyota 86, which when Scion went away here in the United States, they made left-hand drive Toyota 86s, so that's your choice. Engine does come in this. And then you've reissued this, the 1973 Nissan Skyline 2000 GTR. It's an old 1980s kit. Reissue of this, the Nissan Laurel SGX. Again, another 1980s best car vintage kit. And then a reissue of this, the 1991 Nissan SEMA. So this was a little while since this kit was released the last time, but it is just a reissue now, sold out from its reintroduction as you were a few months ago. Also reissued the 1983 Nissan Skyline 2000 Turbo RS. I really kind of wanted to get this kit, but those things on the hood on the fenders are molded in, and I know I could very easily clip them off. It's just the annoyance of them being there. This Aero custom package that's on here is pretty on here. It's very hard to build a stock 83 Skyline out of it without doing a few more modifications than really should be necessary. Because I know there is a stock 83 Skyline that floats around. Why they didn't give you the actual ability to build both, I don't know, but it is what it is. And then we have the reissue of the 74 MGB, as well as the 1968 MGB. And in the two model car lineup, we got a reissue of the S13 Sylvie Rasty, which of course is the old D1 Grand Prix car that they reissued unliveried. And then we have the top secret S15 Nissan Silvia, and the Vertex S13 Silvia as well. So several Nissans getting rerun. In the wheels, we have 17-inch Watanabe RS 8-spokes. They appear on a Nissan Safari in the background, but I don't think they actually came in that kit, which is kind of amusing. And then you have the several BBS 18-inch rims here. You have the Type DTMs, the 17-inch Type RS2s, and the 17-inch Type RGs. So a couple of reissues of venerable rim sets from the folks at Aoshima as well. And that, guys, wraps this one up. So I hope you guys had a great weekend. The days are starting to get a little longer. I hate the wintertime because it's like I go to work and it's instantly dark. Working that second shift in the summer, when it doesn't get dark until like 8:30, then I'm usually at where I go to, the furthest point I go to, and I'm on my way back before it gets dark. Now I don't even get where I'm going, and it's dark halfway into the drive, and it's just, it's nighttime the whole work shift, and that just is just no fun. I enjoy seeing some daylight, So anyway, I've blathered long enough. I will mercifully cut myself off here, and we'll see you guys on the other side.